Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Stacey.
And this is the Body Smart Podcast.
And it's Christmas.
Christmas. You're in a beautiful red dress. I am in a typical standard black top and a Santa hat.
Well, I told you to bring your Christmas jumper and you conveniently forgot it.
I've actually got this, it says Rudolph the Red-Nosed Gaines here. It's a very gym bro top.
Nice.
In typical gym bro fashion, which I try not to fully identify as anymore.
Is it like skin tight as well?
It's not that bad. There is a little bit of Christmas to it. You know, it says that.
So we have got a Christmas special today, but we just want to make clear we're all about enjoying the big day. We're not going to be here saying, don't eat your Christmas pudding. That's not what we're about.
No, not at all. We're all about enjoying the day, enjoying a bit of balance and understanding that like one day isn't going to absolutely, train wreck your results.
But people do worry about that being the case.
Yes.
And I did do some digging earlier. And I have to say, when I found out what the average calorie consumption is on Christmas Day, it's maybe understandable why people feel like they might be ruining their progress.
Yeah.
So I need to have a guess. Like, what is the average calorie consumption on Christmas Day?
God, 5,500 calories.
Oh, that's pretty good. That is on the lower end of.
I could imagine that's on the lower end, yeah.
Yeah. Which when I first saw it, like the highest one I saw was 7,000.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, how? And then one article actually broke it down, and it was like 1,100 calories for breakfast with pancakes, maple syrup, bacon, some champagne. I was like, yeah, okay, that's like before 9 o'clock.
Yeah, and then some chocolates.
Yeah, snacks all day, a bit more wine.
Yeah.
3,500 Christmas dinner, including pudding and wine.
Yeah, you can end up drinking Baileys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went round to Steph's parents for Christmas morning, and they were making me salmon and egg bagels, but the butter was just like levered in, and like I instantly, my head just turns into like Human MyFitnessPal, and I'm like, oh, each one of these is like 50 grams of fat, and I've eaten 4, and I'm like, I've had 200 grams of fat, and it's 9:30, and I was like, right, I just need to just turn that part of my brain off today. But still, there is a part of me as well, in the sense of like, I do eat to feel good, and I do eat to enjoy food. So there is that part of me where like, I think going back 5 years ago, I used to just end up in a coma all the time on Christmas, like a food coma, like I'd want a nap. But then I've just got to the point where like, I do enjoy eating all those foods and having that. But there's a point where I don't want to eat so much to the point where I'm just like, I actually feel a bit sick or want to lie down or have a nap.
Yeah, that's the two sides of the coin, isn't it? Like you want to eat to feel good, but you also want to eat because it tastes good.
Exactly.
So Christmas Day tends to be one of those times when it just gets thrown out the window to just it tastes good.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to cover today was about how you can find that balance and like little tips and tricks that people can use, because you do want to eat stuff just because it tastes good.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but don't go to the point where you literally can't move for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So the other interesting thing that I was looking at, because it's not just Christmas Day, I feel like this whole period creates anxiety because there's all these social events and everything's like drinks here, extra chocolates there, people are bringing stuff into the office, and there's almost that like peer pressure that if you're not joining in consumption, then you're being a bit of a Scrooge. Like, oh, why aren't you having some of the mince pies? And again, I looked at like, what's the average weight gain over the Christmas period? Do you want to take a guess?
12 pounds?
Oh, no, it's not that bad.
No?
It's really not that bad.
Oh, okay. But I do know people I know people personally who have gained. I mean, what sort of time period are we talking about here?
So
I'm thinking like the whole of December.
Yeah.
And like, maybe the first week of January.
Yeah, the whole of December. So the British Dietetics Association, that's a really hard one to say. It says
I'm not gonna try.
that the average festive period, you consume 500 extra calories a day from like mid-December.
Oh, you see, like I just think that's so much more. Don't you think?
What?
Like people
every day though. Like you're still just going around your normal daily life, but then you've got like more social events probably than you normally would. So overbalance over the week.
Yeah, maybe 500 per day, but yeah, I know. I guess it just depends like how sociable you are. I know some people who it's like literally like every single day they've got something going on, and it's kind of like it just racks up so fast.
Especially when it gets to this point, like this week, when maybe you've finished work already and you are going out for lunch, going to another friend's for drinks, then going out for dinner. Like it is easy to get a couple of thousand extra in there. But yeah, the really interesting thing, which I got went off on a tangent there. The really interesting thing was there was another study I found from the National Institute of Child Health Development in the US, which actually showed that the weight that somebody was in September or October, that went up in December and it stayed up come February and March. Like it didn't come back down.
Yeah.
So most people, even though they might go on like a January health kick or like January diet, all of that stuff, it actually doesn't really work for most people.
Yeah.
And so when there's that trend that most adults, unless you're conscious of it, your weight creeps up year on year. Actually, a huge portion of it is from Christmas.
Yeah.
And then it's really hard to shift. So we're not wanting to bring doom and gloom, but equally like that awareness of you don't want to make it into like 2 whole weeks of throwing caution to the wind and then spending however long next year, like trying to get back to where you were.
Yeah, I mean, there's like that little bit of damage control in there as well, but it's also for people who are like, if you're in like a really good flow right now and you're doing your steps and you're drinking your water and you're prioritizing your sleep and you're feeling good, you know, and a lot of this anxiety and nervousness is coming, and when you do just fall off for like a week or 10 days, it's so much harder to restart than it is to just keep going. And I think sometimes that's where it's really helpful to just manage the expectations of, hey, like I want to enjoy this time, but I'm still going to have some non-negotiables about hitting a certain step count each day, you know, maybe eating mindfully, maybe eating at 80% full and not over, but you know, I'll still eat a couple more chocolates than I normally would, and just having that balance. So it's like, hey, like I enjoyed the time. Maybe I did gain a little bit of weight, but I've not gained like 10 pounds in 10 days. I've not done anything. And now it just feels like I've got to climb Everest to start again, you know, come January 1st.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest tips for any of my clients is just reassess your goals at this time of year. Because if you've been losing at a certain rate and you expect to keep losing at £2 a week through December, and then the first week you don't, you feel a bit deflated. And the next week you don't, you feel a bit deflated. And then that self-sabotage kicks in. So actually sometimes at this time of year, if previously you always gain that £10, maybe let's just go with not gaining.
Yeah, I think changing the expectation around what success looks like is a really key tool to going into this, because it can give you a little bit more breathing room to enjoy those social occasions, because that's having a real honest conversation with yourself. Like, what's more important right now? Losing weight over the next 3 weeks and seeing that scale go down every single week. And if that's the case, then understanding like, okay, well, there's going to have to be some sacrifice because you can't, you know, have both at this point. There's a really good saying, which is like, you can have it all, you just often can't have it all at once. And it's like, okay, so if you want to keep losing weight through Christmas, you can't equally think I'm going to have all the Baileys and chocolates and food and still lose weight. You know, there has to be, you know, somewhat of a sort of kind of give and take. So if it's weight loss, like you have to just set that and be ready to say no, and you know, have those set boundaries in place and expectations, and you understand that. That's cool. Like, you know what you're going to do. But equally, if you're not managing that expectation of like, you know what, if I just didn't gain any weight for the next 3 weeks and enjoyed myself and still felt good, and then went into January like no more weight gain, but still felt good and could just start again, you know, that's a fantastic place to be too. And
it takes being really honest, cutting the BS with yourself to own that decision. Yeah. To say, do you know what? My goal is to just maintain my weight, rather than kid yourself or feel like you should still keep losing weight and then be annoyed. Yeah,
that's the flip side of it. If you say like, I want to just keep losing weight over Christmas, this is like the one of the worst things that you could do is like, I want to keep losing weight and then give into temptation and then give into temptation. And you're constantly like at war with yourself. You keep saying you're going to do X, lose weight, and then you just keep giving to temptation. So it's like you've lost both ways. You're not losing weight, and then you feel like you're not enjoying the situations at times as much as you can, because you feel like you're caving to your willpower.
Yeah, and it just brings back that lack of self-trust, lack of self-belief, shame, guilt, all that crap, basically, that we work so hard through the year to try and rebuild. If you don't set realistic expectations at this time of year, you can really undermine that work. So I think being honest with yourself of what your goals are this time of year is probably more important than anything else, because that gives you the foundation to guide like how you want to tackle each event or each meal or just your whole mindset over the period.
Yeah. And I'm not often like black or white with clients. It's often just letting them choose to be honest in that time. So like some people might just go like, you know what, Christmas isn't really a big thing for us. You know what I mean? We have like one big meal on the day, and that's kind of it. So like, I'm quite happy to just keep going at it with my weight loss goals. So I'm like, great, like let's do that. You know, expect to have more calories on that day, maybe see a spike in weight the next day or two, and then you'll just, you know, crack on and be fine. And that's fine. Like, they've had that honest conversation. For other people, lots of anxiety, loads of work events, social events, parties, everything else. And it's like, okay, so it's just trying to understand what balance is going to look like and success is going to look like for them.
Yeah, which brings me on to like choosing your priorities in terms of those events. Because I had one week where I had my husband's work due. I had like a girls' like book club wine cheese thing, a family birthday dinner, all in like the same 4 days. And if I didn't choose between all of those, I mean, I could easily have eaten like 10,000 calories across those.
You could easily. Yeah.
So one of the key strategies that I like to use is to be like, right, I'm not going to go mad on all of these. Which one do I really want to enjoy? And choose one where I'm going to just have whatever I want to eat, have whatever I want to drink. And then on the other ones, like I'll volunteer to drive, or I'll make sure that I'm choosing more like I would normally eat on a Tuesday evening, rather than just because I'm there going to have whatever.
So the real question is,
yeah,
which one did you choose?
It was actually the book club.
Yeah, the book club was the one to go wild on.
Yeah, because I know that's really sad. Because with like I haven't been eating dairy for so long because I was breastfeeding my son who's allergic to dairy.
Yeah,
and there was like this amazing cheese board. I was like, this is the one.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Got to follow. I mean, cheese is, one of the best foods. I feel bad for your state. You're in that predicament.
I'm back in now.
You're
so,
back in, yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. I was enjoying my Stilton.
Yeah.
But yeah, prioritizing your pleasures is what I like to call it. So like you said, you can't have it all at once. So choose the things that are going to make you the most happy. And that was definitely like a set thing for me. Going out with my husband's work colleagues isn't like a really enjoyable thing for me. It's something I have to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to like go mad at that event. But for other people, they might think, I really want to have the wine on that event because I find it really difficult socially to be there. So that might be their priorities.
Yeah, it's always that balance as well, isn't it? If you are going to try and enjoy a bit more than you typically would, managing the expectation around that or doing other things in preparation for that to set yourself up for further success. So it's almost, again, having those honest conversations. Hey, if I drink a bottle of wine, what's my nutrition like typically the day after? And it's like, oh, not the best, right? How can I avoid that? Maybe I can just like prep and track all my food for that next day. So it's just done. And I know that'll be an easier option than maybe just overeating on something else. So there are steps that you can take if you want to enjoy more social things and still set yourself up for success. But it is then having those really honest conversations and following through with it.
I think that's a really practical tip, actually, because I think we can all be guilty of the hangover hunger. And then all you want is carbs and processed foods. And actually, if there's something already in the fridge that's like really comfort, like, a cottage pie or a lasagna, and it's there and it's going to hit the spot and you don't have to cook it, you don't have to go out and get it, you're probably more likely to just have that. Yeah,
you will, because it's the convenience of it just being there, thrown in the microwave for a couple of minutes, and sort of jobs are good. And so that's what I mean. There are definitely ways of navigating around Christmas. Picking the events that you want to enjoy the most, setting yourself up for success with prepping a little bit more and spending a bit more time. And if valuing your health and making sure that Christmas 2023 isn't another year where you kind of just fell off the wagon and everything went to shit, and then halfway through January was really trying to start again and it felt so much harder. If you want to avoid all of that, like putting that extra bit of effort and time in and decision making now goes a really long way.
Yeah, and it is really about just decision making, a lot of it, isn't it? I mean, that is the same all year round. It's like what you choose to put in your mouth. But it's like being really conscious and intentional with your decisions makes such a difference. And there was one interesting study that I found, which was University of Loughborough found they could reduce the amount that people gained over Christmas by 2/3, literally by just raising their awareness of like what the calorie content of certain foods was and what the calorie burn of certain activity was. That was it. So people were just more intentional because they were more informed, and they gained 2/3 less.
It's huge, isn't it? I think it's just still being like, hey, if you're going to eat, mindful eat. If you're going to eat, maybe eat your protein first and your vegetables so you'll feel more full. If you're going to go for seconds, just wait 20, 30 minutes. We'll let that fullness kind of kick in. I used to be so guilty of that. I'd just like woof my dinner back and then I'd be like, give me more. And then now I wait 20 minutes and I'm stuffed. You know what I mean? It's just like that. The food hasn't sort of registered yet because I've just possibly eaten too fast with it being the occasion. So there's lots of things that you can do, but it starts with the intention. Like if you're just going in like, oh, it'll all be fine, it'll all be okay. And then you just all of a sudden like, how has this happened? And I've just had yet again another Christmas of gaining a lot of weight and falling off track. Like going in, like you said, with a lot more intention really does set you up for success.
It's something that I still struggle with. And it used to be one of the reasons that I struggled with my weight is I would very mindlessly eat, especially in social situations. I find it like a good, I don't know what the word is, not distraction, but like almost like a safety net of like, if I'm picking at something, I'm doing something. So I don't feel like I have to be talking to someone all the time or, you know, I'm sure many people listening will understand what I'm talking about. And I still find that now, if there's a bowl of food on the table, I feel like compelled to take some or like keep taking some.
Yeah.
So for me, just being like very mindful of that in advance, like when I go into a room, if there's stuff on the table, I might go and sit to the furthest away chair. So I'd have to physically stand up to keep going to
just
get
more
it.
friction.
Yeah. And it just making it more difficult for myself to be in those habits makes a big difference. And the other thing that I do as well is if I'm going to take some like nuts or whatever, I used to just like take a handful, sit and blah. Whereas now I'll like intentionally get a serving bowl or a plate or a side plate, whatever is out from the guests. And once that's empty, it feels like more of a, okay, that's done, put that to one side.
Okay.
Rather than if, I just had a handful, I just have another handful.
Yeah.
It feels for your brain like more of a complete act.
Yeah. Which is important to like sort of like close that loop on that snack or that meal. Yeah, that's I have that like to certain foods like Doritos or, you know, where they're just in a big bowl and it's like if you stood next to them and you just eat a handful, it's so easy before you even realize 5 handfuls gone, and it's just like a hell of a lot of calories. With some of those foods, I'll either try and do what you just said, like give myself a portion, or sometimes I'm just like, it's just not even worth, for me personally, starting, because I just find I just keep kind of going back, and that's, for me, I'm just like, oh, there's other foods that I know aren't gonna compulsively pull me back to have them to an extent, or if, like I said, I'll get a set portion.
Yeah, and also the Doritos, for example, they're probably like not that enjoyable compared to some of the other foods that are around at this time of year.
Oh yeah.
So in my mind, I always think like, would I rather have that or would I rather have this? And if I wouldn't choose this, then why am I having it now?
Yeah, we had a Halloween party in the office, and we had like loads of sweets, loads of this, but we had 2 big bowls of Doritos. And they were the only 2 things that were finished by the end of the party. I think you just kept seeing people just walking back over. It's just, I mean, that is food made by design to just literally just keep pulling you back and for more and more and more.
Yeah. What would be then your top treat, or snacky bit at Christmas? Because I know what mine is.
Oh, you know those in the box of celebrations, the Maltesers chocolates?
Yes.
Them. They're like the best.
You can get like special Christmas edition ones.
Just
now.
with them,
Yeah, they're good.
And I try not to even look at the calories in them because you can eat 5 and be like, and like that's like, you know, easily have 5 more. Yeah.
So I'm actually more savoury. Have you ever had dates wrapped in bacon?
No.
Oh, you need to get on this.
Yeah.
It's like sweet. It's like the perfect combination of sweet and savoury and a bit salty.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Dates
I can eat
wrapped in
like
bacon.
20 of them. They're so good. I could just have that for my Christmas dinner. I'd be happy.
Yeah, that's... Is there like a... I mean, Sai might be able to help us out with this. Is this like an American thing as well? Like
dates wrapped in bacon?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Or like pigs in blankets.
Yeah, so the British tradition is sausages wrapped in bacon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pigs in blankets.
But is that even a thing in America?
I don't know.
We will find out. Dates
Wrapped in bacon.
Or pigs in blankets.
So my nan always used to make them, but then my nan had an awful sweet tooth, so she might have just invented them. I don't know. But they are insanely good because when you bake them, the dates go all gooey and then the bacon's all crispy. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Next level snacks. Which brings me on to one of our top tips that we give to our clients. If you just like something, like we were saying, like the Doritos are just there, then my advice would be leave it. If it's one of the things that makes you very excited, like me and the pigs and blankets or the dates and bacon, go for it. Like enjoy them, especially if it's something that is just this time of year. They only really come out this time of year. Just enjoy it, but then take your time to enjoy it rather than mindlessly pushing them back and not noticing how much you love it.
Yeah, because there's loads of food. Sometimes food's just there and you're just eating for the sake of eating. And it's like, that's it. You just kind of like it or it's just kind of there. So in that case, most of the time, it's like, leave it. But then the foods that you really enjoy or are really special to you in some ways, whether that's because it's a memory or a tradition, go for it. What have we got?
Oh, dates wrapped in bacon date back to Victorian England. So Nanny Pat did not invent them.
What, when bacon wrapped oysters or prunes, also known as angels or devils on horseback, were eaten before or after a meal?
There you go.
Wild. Yeah. I don't, oysters wrapped in bacon?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'll stick with the dates.
Yeah, so I was like looking, puking in his mouth, thinking about it.
So yeah, back to the, if you like it, leave
it. And if you
love it,
have it.
yes.
That's the one.
It's a bit of a tongue twister.
It's a bit of a tongue twister, but it makes sense. And it's a good mantra to have in mind, especially coming into this time with intention, especially if intention is one of the main drivers around, not seeing 2/3 of weight gain.
I think maybe that should be the takeaway for this episode. We should just call it that, like Christmas with intention.
Christmas with intention.
Yeah, because that is the key to all of it, isn't it?
That is the key with it, yeah. And I think it's like if you've done the next couple of Christmases with intention, that would also it would just become your default. It wouldn't actually be difficult then to enjoy yourself and have a good time and not stress about it. But it does take a bit of reps and sets to get to be like, oh, this is the framework that works best for me.
And intention changes it as well to, oh, I'm not allowed that. I'm not, or like, I'm on a diet, I can't have this. It's like, no, I've chosen. This is what I want to prioritize.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
It's very different. I mean, everyone knows that, isn't it? Like the second you get told you can't have something, it's like you just feel like you're the naughty kid and want to rebel and eat all the stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I find really helpful is the 80-20 balance that we talk with our clients to help counteract that, like, you can't have it. We should have 80-20 balance in our lives, like every day of the week, and also at Christmas, right? So it can be easier to go 20-80 maybe at Christmas. But if you say to yourself, look, I'm not banning all of the sweets or all of the alcohol, I'm just keeping my balance still though, then you can feel like you're still working towards your goals, but you're still enjoying the treats.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just, it does come down to like what that 80 looks like for you. So
do you want to explain what that even is?
The 80-20 balance.
Yeah.
So it's just like 80% of the time you basically, we're talking about food here specifically, 80% of the time you're eating whole, nutrient-dense, minimally processed foods, lean meats, that type of stuff. And then 20% of the time, you eat a little bit of what you love. So whether that's, more processed foods, pizza, ice cream, having a glass of wine, whatever that looks like. Obviously, you'd be like, well, how does that work if I want to eat a lot more of those calories on a singular day? And I think that's where you can kind of look at the 80-20 as a more of a macro zoomed out approach in the sense of, hey, if it's just like a couple of days per month, that's still kind of, if you look 31 days in a month and you had 3 days where you ate a little bit more and the other sort of 27 wasn't, that kind of factors into that sort of balance too. So but I think you can apply that same principle to like lots of other parts of your health and wellness and fitness. That like it just removes that idea of like you always have to be 100%, and that's where so many people trip themselves up, is having that perfectionist mindset, like I have to be 100%, I have to be 100%, and then if you're not, you almost just like destroy yourself mentally of like, well, I'm not good enough, or I haven't got enough willpower, and then just being like, right, well, there's no point, I'll just give up, instead of going like, hey, today I didn't get to do as much as I would have liked, but I couldn't because of this and this. And then giving yourself that grace to be like, actually, I gave 40% today, but 40% was actually my 100%, and being okay with that.
Yeah. And particularly at this time of year where maybe you're out of routine, you're staying at other people's houses, having that grace is really important.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it can almost become an excuse to be off track, as it were, because, oh, I can't do my workouts. Oh, I can't control what I'm eating. Well, you still have a choice to do 80% maybe.
Yeah.
Or do what you can in this moment, in these circumstances.
Yeah, if you're staying out, you could still get up and go for a run or do a home workout, or even just go for a walk, just go for a long walk. You could have your Christmas dinner and be like, hey, I'm just going to go for a quick 15-minute walk because that's going to help with my digestion. I'm going to feel better. I've got a bit of movement in, and I'll come back and enjoy the rest of the night. So there are still things that you can keep on top of without feeling like you're having to completely exclude yourself. And I just, if you are going to drink a bit more, eat a bit more, and allow yourself to do a little bit more of that over Christmas, still prioritizing some of these parts of your health and wellness, whether that's exercise and, hitting a certain step count each day, like that's going to allow you to not feel like you've just stopped it all. And then come January 1st, it's like, oh no, like here we kind of go again. It feels so hard. You're just like, oh, I'm already doing my steps. I'm already doing my workouts. All right, I've gained a bit of weight because I was a bit more loose than I typically am, but I'll just turn the dial back on with nutrition, instead of thinking like I need to turn the dial on with my nutrition, with my sleep, with my exercise, with my steps. And it's just like, it just feels
so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think if you keep those habits up over the whole period, you don't get that overall just like sluggish, bloated, feeling crappy come January the 1st.
Yeah.
So taking action on like one one extra part doesn't feel as difficult because you still feel energized, you're still getting enough rest, you're still moving. So the general momentum is in the right direction.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, just a quick ask. If you are enjoying today's episode, then please do give us a follow just to make sure you get every episode and we can keep cutting the BS and helping you hit your goals.
We've done it the last couple of years where we've done like a adherence challenge for clients. And it's
which sounds so unsexy.
It sounds so unsexy, but it's in the idea of, again, just understanding what balance needs to look like.
Yeah.
So whatever their habits are set around, maybe steps or sleep or exercise or whatever else. Like, let's say you've typically got 3 workouts. We'll say, hey, we want you guys to have 80% adherence to your habits over this time. So instead of over the week of Christmas, you having 3 workouts to do, you might be like, hey, 2 hits at 80%. If you hit 3, great. And if you've got a step goal of hitting 10,000 steps a day, and you have like 2 days or something where you missed out or whatever, 20% of 7 is.
We do it for the whole month, which makes the maths easier.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. What it does is it just allows you to give yourself a little bit more grace because it's this time of year, but also allows you to keep staying consistent. And again, it is just that psychology, and everyone will notice if they've dropped off a diet when you're like in routine and you're going like the first week or two. The first week's the hardest. Then the second week it feels easier. The third week you're kind of in a bit of a routine, bit of flow, things feel good. But it's when those events happen, you get sick, something happens in your family, those things that kind of throw you completely, throw a spanner in the works. Then starting again is like, just feels so difficult. And Christmas can be not just a small spanner, like a giant spanner for people, because not only did they stop doing all the things that helped them get the results, they also gained a lot of weight from the excessive amount of calories and alcohol that they drank.
Yeah, and I think you also lose that pride in yourself, because when you were describing when you start up and week 2, week 3, it starts to feel easier. You get that sense of like, oh, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm getting some results. Like, this feels good, and it compounds on itself. And then when something like Christmas or like sickness comes along, you lose all those nice little dopamine hits as well.
Yeah.
So it's like a double whammy.
Yeah.
And then your mood is lower, your motivation is lower, and you've got all this regain.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The best way to think about this, because if I were to look at like if I wanted to make someone successful with their health and fitness and weight loss and nutrition, would I want it to just be all singing and dancing all year round? I was like, no, not at all. Like, I would be like, oh, that person hasn't been tested enough. So like actually going through levels of adversity with your health and fitness, whether that is getting sick, something happen in your family, or just nice things like holidays, vacations, Christmas. Like, you want to have these things that test you, because if you're able to go through that and then just keep getting back on track, you're creating a framework around like, oh, adversity happens and I can still prioritize my health, or you can manage expectations and still prioritize your health. And then what you're showing yourself is, and this is why it's so important to be able to, if you actually achieve the results you're looking for with weight loss, if you're able to sustain them for about 2 years, typically you're going to be able to sustain your results for the rest of your life. And that's often because in that 2-year framework or that 2-year timeline, you've gone through Christmas twice, you've gone on multiple holidays, you've probably got sick a couple of times, you've probably had a couple of family emergencies, and you've still prioritized your health and fitness. So you're showing yourself, even when adversity happens, or Christmas in this case, you're able to keep on top of your health and wellness. And I think that's another different frame where you can go like, oh, this is tough. Oh, I really don't want to do this workout. Oh, I really don't want to prep this food, but I'm going to do it anyway, because this is like the lessons it's teaching me to make sure that I stay successful for life.
It's almost giving you that catalyst to embed that identity change, isn't it? Of, I used to deal with Christmas like this, or I used to always overindulge at family events. And then you get to prove to yourself, like, I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
Actually, I choose to do things in this way, and that's okay. And I think one of my favorite stories around this, one of my clients, she would always drink at family events. It was just their way of celebrating. It's like their way of showing love. They'd have some bubbles, any good news, like promotion, whatever. Bubbles comes out, and then everybody's had a drink, so everyone gets snacky, and it would just spiral. And she used to dread family things, because no matter what she'd done all week, she'd feel like she had like no control over that. And then we worked on the identity element of like, I'm not who I always have been. Like, I can choose to celebrate in a different way. I can use words. I can use cuddles. And just because my family celebrate in that way doesn't mean I have to. And she said it was literally game changing for her to realize, just because I've always celebrated in that way, or that's my family ritual, I can still take part in celebrating. and be part of the ritual without actually having to drink and eat.
Yep.
And I think that's something that they come as a package in so many parts of our life, like Christmas, Thanksgiving, parties. They have food and drink attached to them, but it's not about the food and drink most of the time. It's about being with the people you love, celebrating something and making memories. And I think if you can detach those two things and focus on the making memories and the people you love and the doing things together, it all becomes a lot easier as well.
Yeah.
And you can then say, okay, well, that is how I do Christmas now. I focus on the memories. I focus on being there for my nan or like helping my kids play with their toys. Like that's what it's about, not getting so full I can't move.
Exactly. And celebration is just gratitude on steroids. So you just, that's what it is.
Like it.
Yeah, it's just like, you think about it, it's you're celebrating something that you're really, really grateful for. So it's just like a lot of, you're just in a real abundance when it comes to gratitude and you really kind of making a thing of it. But often you're grateful for being with those people, celebrating the event, being around and spending time with each other. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't always need to just end in a food coma and copious amounts of Baileys, which
I don't know if they even have Baileys in America. They have eggnog.
Eggnog's a really big one, isn't it? That seems to be copious amounts of eggnog. Maybe Baileys is a little bit more British.
Which also, it's got milk in, so I haven't had that for a few years. Very excited about this Christmas.
I'm more worried about you this Christmas, Stacey.
So we were just saying about like different ways of celebrating. Have you got any traditions that you do like on Christmas or around this period?
With like family?
Yeah.
I mean, we typically will either go to Steph's parents of a morning or mine and then just kind of swap around the year after and go to each of his houses for dinner. But because we haven't got any kids yet and everyone kind of has, we're like the traveling ones. So we'll often be like, parents for breakfast and then go and see my sisters and then go to Steph's maybe fat brothers and sisters and then go to, because they've all got families and it's just, so it's a lot of driving typically. And seeing a lot of people, but then typically what happens, you go into every house, oh, do you want a drink? Oh, do you want this? So like I'm getting offered like a lot at the same time, but I used to drink through the day on Christmas, or I'd be really hungover from Christmas Eve, which didn't help either. But now I will have a drink, but it's often just at the end of the day. So it's probably after dinner and I'll maybe have like a couple of drinks. And like I find that's the best time. If I drink in the day, I feel really tired and sluggish. I just feel like, I guess I almost feel a bit hungover throughout the whole day. I mean, you're eating all that food as well. So for me, I like to exercise. I always have. So I make a point of doing that in the morning. I'll just do it in the home gym. I'll go for a run, do all the traveling around, see a lot of people, eat when I feel full, enjoy those celebration Maltesers a lot. and then, maybe have a couple of drinks at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think I really feel for my nephew because my brother and his mum aren't together. So he always has Christmas Day split and he always has 2 Christmas dinners. And he's so polite. Last year, he ate so much. He was actually sick because he felt like he had to eat my mum's cooking as well as his other grandma's cooking. No. And we were like, dude, no, don't feel like you have to. But there is that compulsion, isn't there? When you go to each person's house, it kind of feels rude to say no. But
the first time I went to Steph's for dinner, her mum's Polish and they're very big on just like giant portions and they make like excessive amounts of food that like it's enough food for the week. And she made me a portion and I ate it all and I went home and was like, oh, I'm still hungry. And Steph was like, what do you mean you're still hungry? There's loads of food left. So then she told her mum, so every time I go around, her mum makes me a mountain of food and comes back and trying to give me seconds. And I'm like, no, like having to say no like several times. But yeah, it is difficult, especially if you've got some people pleasing tendencies, and which I think we all do. It can feel difficult to say no, but it is really about flexing those boundaries in those situations and just being really polite about it.
Yeah. And I think if you are on a weight loss journey or even just you're generally health conscious, if you've shared that with your family or whoever you're sharing Christmas with, they are going to understand. If you just suddenly say no.
I don't know if...
Do you not think? Maybe not Steph's family, but like my brother has been on a massive weight loss journey, as you know. And now when he says no to things, before we'd be like, what are you on about? You always get stuck in. Whereas now we're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be extra pressure.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing for like alcohol as well, isn't it? Like when you say no to having alcohol, people feel like, oh, why are you not drinking? And it can even be the same a little bit with food around Christmas too. Like if people say no, they're like, well, why not? Like, why don't you want to enjoy this food with us? Like, be on our level to an extent.
Especially if food is like an expression of love for some people, isn't it?
Yeah, which it can be in a huge way.
Yeah, and particularly at this time of year, if you haven't seen family for a while or certain family members.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I know we are, I'm guilty of it, to be fair. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah. But if someone said no or like had a small portion, I wouldn't be offended.
Yeah.
But I do really enjoy cooking really nice things for people that I care about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
I think it's a tricky one, and you're in a family dynamic as well, which I think complicates it even more. But it's just if
we should talk about that actually, because how many of the things that we struggle with our relationship with food is grown out of our family dynamic with food. Yeah. And this is like putting it all into one room. It's like, we should really acknowledge that's quite a difficult situation.
Well, it is. I mean, you could have your mum or dad or certain people that trigger you, and you're spending the week with them, and it's like, right, well, they're like really annoying me every single day. But I think that kind of comes back to the idea of just like controlling the controllables. Like, you've chosen to go home, you're home for the week. So right now you're having to deal with your mum that winds you up every day and keeps telling you, like, why have you put your washing there, and why haven't you done this, and why, like, just like nitpicks at you.
Even though you're over 30.
Yeah. So like all of those things are happening, and you're just like, this is why I don't live at home anymore. Like, so you could have all of those things going through your head, but I think it's always just taking it back. Like, you can't control your mum or your dad's or your siblings or your family's behavior. But what you can control is how you think, how you feel, whether you choose to go for a walk, whether you work out, what you eat. They're all things that you can control. And controlling the controllables, especially around stuff that makes you feel good, is a really powerful tool to have with you through that time, to be like, hey, like, yeah, there are certain things that like trigger me here, but eating copious amounts of food that make me feel worse, and then probably feel more trigger around the situation because it's impacting how I think and feel. Can give you a little bit of power, especially if it's like an extended period of time and not just Christmas.
Yeah, and knowing what your triggers are is really helpful in that sense. So for me, I don't know why, but when we all get together as a family, it feels like there's a race to everybody get all the food off the middle of the table. And then I feel like I put way too much food on my plate, and then everyone's eating it really fast, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to eat mine really fast. I never eat like that normally. Yeah. But it's just like, that's just how we obviously ate when I was growing up. So we need
to challenge you this year to be the last person to finish your food, and to just sit there for another 5 minutes and just eat away.
And what I have to consciously do is like... Yeah. Because I get like inwardly annoyed if I see someone's taking more potatoes than me. Genuinely. I'm like, I need 6 potatoes too. Yeah. Even though I need 3. Yeah. So I have to like consciously say to myself, like, what I'm going to have based on what I really want to eat.
Is your family competitive?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so this is like a competition who can get the most potatoes then. Yeah.
So I have to just be like, right, no. Just come on, calm down. Right, you only want 3 potatoes. Just have 3 potatoes. But it's because I'm aware of that trigger. Yeah. Whereas previously, I just competed and ate all the potatoes. Yeah. So knowing what your triggers are and like what your tendencies are that are very different to maybe how you would eat if you were just in your known calm environment, allows you to kind of call it out to yourself before and make an intentional choice.
Well, if you've ever listened to this podcast before, you know we just like harp on about self-awareness. And if you come back to what you just said a little bit earlier, which is intention, having the self-awareness allows you to be more intentional about how you want to feel and you want Christmas to go, and you're self-aware around what your triggers are. So you can kind of almost intentionally prepare yourself for certain situations with family, with food, with everything else. And that can put you in a place where it is a lot easier, to stay on top of what you deem, valuable through this time.
And you feel more in control, because I always found otherwise I'm halfway through my meal, I'm not even enjoying it, and I feel out of control. And it's just a horrible situation. So when you go in with that intention and you stick to what you know is going to make you feel good, it's just all round a nicer, happier day.
It is. Yeah. Definitely.
So what about the day after? Because obviously we talked a lot about on Christmas Day, because that tends to be when the big focus and all the calories are and everything. And then there's that kind of like slump after. Yeah. What would your advice be?
For the next day?
Yeah.
For me, it's get up and move your body. Drink a lot of water and just start your day off with a little bit more. I know typically people, it's really difficult because like I could say that's what I want to do. For some people, I know they can just do a little bit less and still feel great and want to enjoy that time with family. I honestly believe it's just sticking with just being true to yourself. And I feel like that's, if you're having that deficit of like where you say you're going to do something and you don't, that's where you do start to lose that self-trust and start to break those promises to yourself. So just, again, going into it with intention. But yeah, if you have overdone it a little bit on Christmas, not get up and move your body and exercise to burn calories. Get up and move your body to feel good, to have that like dopamine hit, to let that stress, relief go a little bit, and to just feel good about the day. I know anytime I wake up and I've eaten way too much the night before, when I go into a good workout session, my gut health feels better, my digestion feels better, my bloating goes down, I feel less puffy, and just off going to do a good workout. And I often find I actually wake up hungry. I wake up, like, even when I've eaten loads.
Really?
I wake up like, it's almost gluttonous.
Oh, because that was going to be my tip is the opposite, because I always wake up feeling stuffed, and so I don't need to eat till like 3 o'clock because I'm still so full.
Yeah. Well, I find when I go and work out, it suppresses my appetite. Like, I don't have it. So then that's what I do. I'll typically push back. Like, I'm not hungry till like 12 o'clock, or I can just justify not eating for the first half of the day because I'm like, ate like 7,000 calories yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's the key though. Everybody is different. And so listening to your body and doing what's going to make you feel good in the moment is really important, not just slobbing around, because that's what we've always done. Mm-hmm. The other thing that is like a tradition in the UK, I don't know if it is in America, but like Boxing Day swims, Boxing Day runs.
Well, Boxing Day is not even a thing in America, is it?
Oh.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
No, it's not, is it? Yeah, there we go. Size confirming it. Actually, do you want to pull up what it was? It's not good from... I think Boxing Day is that, like, the kings and queens used to box up all their extra presents and give them to the poor.
I mean, that is quite nice.
Is it?
Well, they're giving away nice presents.
Okay.
Do you think that's nice? Like, they could have kept them all for themselves.
I mean, they could have, yeah. We'll get the actual reason of. Yeah, but I think Boxing Day is just a very British thing. So there's all the football, the soccer, all the soccer's on. Here we go.
Oh yeah, Boxing Day was traditionally a day off for servants when they received a special Christmas box from their masters. I mean, that's nothing.
Less nice.
It's nice.
It's less nice. Yeah. Anyway, it still gets called Boxing Day, doesn't it? At least in the UK. But yeah, no, Boxing Day it tends to be a huge thing for leftovers, and eating leftover food, and there's still a lot of leftover chocolate. And there's a lot of sports on in the UK. So it does, again, I think it's just making sure that, like, yeah, if you did overdo it on Christmas, drinking more water, getting a walk in, getting a workout in, still enjoying maybe some of that food, but doing some of these other non-negotiables allows you to feel like, oh, that was a bit of an enjoyable off day in that sort of sense. But like, I'm not going to miss twice. And that's a huge thing for me a lot of the time.
Yeah, and just getting back on the horse, as it were. So if it's a Tuesday and you would normally go to the gym on Tuesday, maybe just treat it like a normal Tuesday rather than...
Because that's it. People lose complete concept of days and time, don't they, over Christmas.
Especially because this year, I mean, Americans are going to hate us for this, but Jamie's given us all like 10 days off. So none of us are going to know what planet we're on. We're going to just be like in this weird space-time continuum.
It's good. No, I mean, some businesses in the UK, close like the 7th, the 2 weeks before sort of Christmas, and then don't go back to the first Monday after, sort of January. So, for some people, there is a real, like, you just lose track of.
And when you don't
life.
have your routine, like, we always talk about habit stacking, don't we? So if you've got a routine that has to happen, it's really easy to tag a healthy habit onto that because you're already doing the other thing. It's going to prompt you to remember the healthy habit. If your routine is out the window completely because it's Christmas period, it is harder to then do all the other things. So like I said, just consciously making a choice of like, it's still Tuesday, I'm still going to do something active or whatever it might be is really important.
I would honestly say, and I agree for this like 99% of the time anyway, just do it in the morning. Like whatever you're planning to do, whether it's a walk or a workout or anything else, like get up, drink a glass of water, go for an hour walk. Get up, drink a glass of water, go and do an hour workout. Just like before any of the procrastination or any of your family events kick in, just like lay your clothes out the night before, get up with intention, and just like you still can have a sleep in and everything else, but just if you get it done in the morning, it's often so much easier. Equally, on the flip side of it, there's loads of people that would be like, hey, let's take the kids for a walk after Christmas dinner. You know what I mean? Like, might actually be good for them too, in terms of everything else. There's other ways where you can be more active.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is if you have got kids, I'm really conscious that it's Nate's first Christmas that he'll probably remember because he's not even 2 yet. So last year he didn't know anything was going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a really nice opportunity for us to create some traditions and rituals that are a bit more like active. I don't want to be a family that just sits around on the sofa all day.
Yeah.
So going out for a walk after lunch. And also he probably is going to need to burn off some energy. You know, being in the house all day is not what we normally do. So if you have got kids, taking the opportunity to like create a new ritual that is just something that you guys do is a really nice way to look at it.
It is. And you basically... Excuse me. You're basically taking those healthy habits that you want to have and you're starting to instill them from a very young age into your kids as well. So, you know, that's a great thing. Instead of looking at it like, oh, we've got to go for a walk, it's like, oh no, this is good for our physical health, good for our mental health, good for our kids' physical and mental health as well. And if they just kind of see that as the norm, you know, that's what they'll expect with Christmas growing up. And then that's also what they would do as adults as well.
Yeah. So on that note, what are you going to be doing on Christmas Day this year? Are you going around everybody's? Going for a run?
So I had a goal that I set at the start of this year. And I've always said, like, in my life, once I want to have Christmas on a beach.
Oh, okay.
So I'm planning this Christmas on being on a beach in Australia with a Christmas hat on and a beer and a shot of tequila in one hand. So that's how I'm planning on this Christmas going.
Amazing.
Which is like, I think that's just a very backwards way of doing Christmas, isn't it? Well, for us at least, that it's what I know you had 3 years in
on a beach
on Christmas in Brunei. So yes, that's how it will be for me, which will be weird. There'll be a lot of FaceTiming going on. Obviously, prior to that, I mean, it might be a lot of drunk FaceTiming with Australia being 11 hours ahead of the UK. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of a weird one for me this year.
Yeah, it'll be nice though. Another opportunity to just create maybe some rituals that can happen wherever you are.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I would still get up on Christmas and want to exercise and go for a walk, but it may also mean tequila on a beach too, with a Christmas hat on. I don't. We'll see.
We're all about balance. Well,
yeah.
I've got everybody coming to us for Christmas, so it's going to be
amazing.
Yeah, we're going to have like 7 adults and 2 kids, so it's going to be busy. But I feel like, because my brother's been on this massive health kick, it's good because he wants to get up and go for a run or something. So
can you share how much weight your brother's lost?
50 kilos.
So like what, 104 pounds is that? Or a bit more than 100 pounds.
Yeah. And now he just like runs ultra marathons.
Have we ever said why on this podcast?
No.
So when we have new coaches come into the business, they have to go through basically, there's a lot of sort of training and checks that have to happen before, and then a part of like onboarding.
It's a bit like probation.
Yeah, a bit like probation is that like we have a bunch of people like your brother and someone else they basically coach those people, and your brother's basically been with about 7 or 8 of the 9 of the coaches, and that's been going on over well, it was last year, wasn't it? Over like a 1 year
so we
period.
can kind of check if they meet the body smart standard because he knows, because he's had 9 of them.
Yeah.
And so he lost 50 pounds.
100 pounds, 50 kilos.
50 kilos. Yeah, started running. He's done the London Marathon. He's running 100 miles this weekend.
Holy shit.
Yeah. He like does triathlons. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Got promotion at work. Like literally changed his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
get emotional.
We do still only coach women, but it does show you that, some of these, most of these healthy habits and things that we talk about in this podcast do, apply for both genders.
Yeah, absolutely applies to everybody. And the amount of his friends that like, oh, can I do this? And he has to be like, no, sorry. But it does show that it works for everybody.
Yeah.
And what a gift.
Yeah.
Christmas
definitely.
gift.
Christmas gift.
Nice.
Amazing.
Well, we hope you have an amazing Christmas. Thank you so much for being with us this year. We've got a lot planned in 2024, haven't we?
We've got lots planned for 2024 with the podcast, so stay tuned.
Happy Christmas. We hope you're having a lovely break. Don't forget to subscribe or make sure you're following us on your preferred platform so that you can get next week's episode, which is going to be all about setting goals for the new year.